So you remember I talked about in another video how Massachusetts Democrats had approved the free lunches for kids in schools? Well, it turns out that there were other states that also did that. California actually was the first in the nation to do that. So you had California, you had Massachusetts, and then you had 7 other states that did the same thing. So you had Massachusetts, California, and then you also had Colorado, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Maine, New Mexico, and Vermont. Now here it says, many other states are currently planning, drafting, discussing, and or negotiating expanded free school meal legislation for the fiscal year 2024 and beyond. Arizona allocated more funding to free school meals in December of 2022. While the policy isn't universal, this increased investment means that more students who previously were not eligible for free meals are now able to receive them. Connecticut intended to provide universal free school meals during the 2023 school year, 22/23 school year, but funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, which President Biden signed into law, ran out a few months into the year. There are discussions regarding bills in the House and Senate to establish universal free school meals during the 2023 legislative session. However, there have been concerns from the Connecticut General Assembly Appropriations Committee about the cost of such a program. In Hawaii, a bill to implement universal free school meals at all public and public charter schools starting during the 23/24 school year has been introduced in the Hawaii House of Representatives. So that means it probably hasn't gotten to the Senate yet, and it didn't get to the governor's office, or who knows, maybe it passed through the state house, but it failed in the state Senate and it didn't get to who knows? I thought Hawaii was mostly blue, but I'd have to double check that later. Louisiana, that's a little bit of a different story. We know Louisiana is mostly red, deep South, deep red state. Louisiana saw the introduction of HB 282 by Representative Kyle Green, which in its original text would have provided free meals to all public school students. However, amended version of the bill included eligibility requirements for students to receive free meals. Maryland saw the introduction bills in the House and Senate permanently establishing free school meals during the 2022 legislative session. While the policy is not yet permanent, children in the state will have free meals throughout the 2023/24 school year. Still a good move. Bills in the House and Senate have been introduced in Missouri to provide each student enrolled in such public school with 1 free breakfast and 1 free lunch each day. Such student attends classes in public school. A bill was introduced in Montana to eliminate costs to students for school meals. However, the Montana legislature website categorized the bill as probably dead. Yeah, usually when they say that, there's no probably about it. That means it's dead. Now, I don't know if the Montana State House and State Senate are red or blue. I know Montana's a mixed state. Actually, I think it kind of leans more red. If I remember that correctly, I don't know off the top who the governor is there, but I'll look more into that and talk about that in another video. But if there's a lot of red out there, then, well, that explains it. And to those of you who think I'm just being narrow-minded and offensive when I say that, it's like, look, this is just stuff that, for the most part, you have more people on the Democrat side that support this than people on the Republican side. That's just a fact. And, you know, like I said in the last video, the reason why that bill passed out of Massachusetts is because the state is overwhelmingly ran by Democrats, except for their state Supreme Court, which is all red. Now, at first I thought, like, well, for conservative voters out there that may not like it, can they take it to the state Supreme Court because they're all red? I don't know if they can do that. And if they can, I don't know how successful and effective that would be, because you have a Democratic governor, Democratic attorney general, Democratic secretary of state. You have 37 out of 40 state senators. You have 132 or 33 out of 160 state representatives. And so it's just a popular policy. And guess they did it by taxing the rich, not by 30 or 20 or 15%. They did it by only 4%. And now all these other states are doing the same thing, or at least trying to do the same thing here. My thing is this. As I said before, there's a number of things that we're trying to push the Biden-Harris administration to do, and this is definitely one of them. And if they actually go through with this will raise his approval ratings by a good amount. You see how high up his approval ratings went just from reducing a little bit of student debt. His approval rating went from 33 to 48%. So just by doing even a half policy, his numbers went up 15 percentage numbers. If he did something like this, I mean, I know his numbers went back down a bit, back like 38, 39, maybe around 40. If he did this, he'd probably be at about 50, 55. But I guess my question is, so if the Biden administration actually goes through with something like this, and let's say they implement free breakfasts and free lunch for all kids across the nation, and let's say it wasn't even permanent, let's say it was a thing that went on for this will go on for the next 2 years, and that goes through, how can any Republican or anybody else in general, how can you argue against that? Like, what's the moral, logical, and proper argument against it? How do you properly and intelligently articulate that? What's the argument against kids getting free lunches and free breakfasts? What's the problem with that? If Biden is on the debate stage, what is Ron DeSantis? And again, this is a hypothetical because Biden hasn't done this yet, but we need to push him to do it, and maybe he might do it. He surprised us with a few other things. How's Ron DeSantis going to debate that? How's Chris Christie going to debate that? Nikki Haley or Trump or any other, even Republicans who aren't even running for president, Ted Cruz, Rick Scott, Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney, Jim Jordan, how are these people going to argue against that? So go ahead and try to argue against it all you want to. All you're basically saying is, hey, kids don't need to be fed, or they at least have to pay for it. I don't know. That's a tough one right there. That's really tough. I can tell you right now, congratulations to these 9 states for doing it so far. That's why the Democrats in those states are winning, and that's why a lot of them who will run again are on track to win re-election just because of things like that. Just because of things like that. Where was I at? Montana, probably dead. Nebraska. A bill was introduced in 2021 to adopt the Hunger-Free Schools Act, which will provide universal free school breakfast and lunch. However, it was postponed indefinitely in April of 2022 and has been introduced again in January of 2023. The state of Nevada, they used the funding from the American Rescue Plan to provide universal free school meals during the 22/23 school year and has approved additional funding to continue the program into the 2023/24 school year. There is not yet word of any proposed legislation to make the program permanent. Okay, but that's still a start. So at least they get free lunch for a little bit. It should be permanent, though. New Jersey saw the introduction of a bill that requires schools to universally provide free meals to all students in February of 2022. While the bill was not passed during the 2022 session, it is likely to be revisited in 2023. New York, Albany, Rochester, and Yonkers are among municipalities in New York that offer universal free school meals. While a bill was introduced in 2021 to establish universal free meals, it has been in committee ever since. Community Food Advocates is among those supporting statewide legislation, and the policy is supported by the New York Health Foundation. North Carolina followed the success of the pandemic-era federal policy. Bills establishing permanent universal free school meals have been brought to the House and Senate. North Dakota legislative branch saw 2 bills related to school meals, one to provide universal free lunch meals at public schools, another one that fights lunch debt stigma. The universal free school meal bill failed in March of 2023, and the lunch debt bill was passed and signed by Governor Doug Burnham in April of 23. So before I continue the rest of those states, let me get to this right here. Let's talk about this. Why do free breakfast and lunch for K through 12 students? Why do free school meals? This right here was according to NWEF, Noah Webster Educational Foundation. Universal free school meal policy has both a business case and a moral case, and it makes sense whether you see it from the perspective of the child, parent, teacher, or taxpayer/society as a whole. Giving a free, healthy, hot lunch to all children will improve the health and education outcomes of a whole generation. From claims of educational benefits to leveling the proverbial playing field, the virtues of this concept are praised high and low. Let's briefly examine some of the positive aspects of offering free school meals to every child. 1, children can't learn on an empty stomach. Regardless of family income, many children end up without a lunch at school. Their cafeteria tab hasn't been paid because their single dad simply forgot to pay. Their mom forgot to prepare a packed lunch to take with them. Whatever the case, readily available income isn't always the issue for a child going hungry, and a hungry child is a distracted child. According to the Food Research and Action Center, students who eat do better than students who miss meals. Students in schools with healthy meals for all fared better on tests. Students in schools with healthy meals for all fared better on tests than their peers in schools without universal meals in a carefully controlled study by the Maxwell School at Syracuse University. Free meals for all students will significantly reduce the likelihood of hungry children laboring through their studies, regardless of the cause of their hunger. Another, free school meals for all children would level the playing field. Often there are stigmas associated with using a free meal program at school. By far, this is one of the most compelling incentives to universalize free lunches. According to the Ford Foundation, 1 in 3 New York students eligible for a free lunch chooses to go hungry instead of enjoying their free meal. Why? Because of the stigma attached to identifying as a low-income child. Some kids are hesitant to participate in the programs, feeling embarrassed that they are different from their peers. There can be a stigma attached to receiving free and reduced lunch, especially in the upper grades. In some cases, children may go to alternative locations in the school to receive a free meal, separating them from their peers. If every student had access to free meals, there would be a very little basis for stigmatization or bullying based on a student's meal ticket. Free meals for all help to fight childhood hunger. Regardless of the reasons, thousands of children go hungry at school. Ultimately, free school meals for all students would drastically reduce this problem. And last paragraph here. As Civil Eats points out, school meals have the potential to serve as a safety net for all of us. How can we shape school meals to be better? How can we shape school meals to better reconnect us to each other, reinforce solidarities across lines of social difference, and provide much needed support to everyone raising children today? And so this is why more and more states are doing that, mostly the blue states and some independent states. But as you can tell, I don't see this going on in a lot of red states. And again, some of those states I listed on there, they could be red states. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. But I know for sure. And that's why I was surprised when I saw Louisiana on the list. I said, Louisiana, deep red, deep South state. But again, the Democrat there is a governor. I'm sorry, the governor there is a Democrat. He's not a far left Democrat. He's not Bernie Sanders. He's not Elizabeth Warren, any of those people. He's a centrist to center left moderate Democrat who actually has some right-leaning views, I think, if it's the same governor down there that I'm thinking of. And they're talking about they were trying to work on this, or that I know what state's not going to do that. You're not going to get that in Arkansas. You're not going to get that in Alabama, Mississippi. Georgia is a maybe. I know they have a Republican governor down there. They have a purple House and a purple Senate, but you got 2 blue senators. Maybe they could help with something. You're not getting it in Florida right now. I highly doubt Texas. So, I mean, you're not, again, you're not getting any Utah or Wyoming. So, again, if we push more and more top Democratic officials to get on board with that, we know it's not going to pass the federal House of Representatives right now because they're mostly ran by Republicans. So that has no shot of passing through there. Now, the Democrats can still legislate it, and they can still come out looking like the good guys and say, hey, so that'd be like if, hypothetical example, if Alexandria Cortez or Rashida Tlaib or Nancy Pelosi or just anybody in the House of Representatives who's a Democrat, whether they're center left or far left, they could legislate that bill. And of course, it would be voted against by Republicans like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Greene, Lauren Boebert, Jim Jordan, Kevin McCarthy. But guess what? The Democrats will still come out looking like the good guys in that case because they said, hey, we at least tried to do this. The same thing's going to happen with the Senate. Bernie Sanders or Chuck Schumer or Amy Klobuchar or Cory Booker or one of them who, you got Eric Swalwell in California, Adam Schiff, like any of those people, you get them to get on board with that and they at least try to legislate it. at least more and more voters can look at that and say, well, at least they tried to get free meals for my kids. Now, I don't know if, could that be something that could be done through executive order? If Biden could do that through executive order, that's something we definitely have to push him to do. Because again, I've asked this before and I'm going to ask again. If Democrats actually go through with this in more and more states and more areas, I'm curious to know how Republicans would fight against it. What is the logical argument for saying, no, you don't give my kids free lunches? Or no, you're not going to give other kids free lunches because... Why is this even a discussion? Why is this even a thing that's argued amongst the left and the right? Like, why is this even a debate? Should kids get free lunches? Anybody with enough common sense is saying, hell yeah, they should get free lunches. They not, where are they going to get? So if you got parents who, like they said, if they're low income, how the hell are they going to pay for it? If the kids don't have, especially in elementary and middle school, they don't have jobs. They're not old enough to work. Some kids in high school, maybe, 16 and older, they got part-time jobs at McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but I'm just curious to know anybody who's a conservative who happens to be watching this, and there's probably not many conservatives who watch this channel, but if you're a conservative and you happen to come across this video, and I'll tag the articles, I'll put them in the comment section below, but, I mean, excuse me, sorry about that. I was really trying to hold that in. I was hoping it wouldn't come out, but it happened. So, I'm just curious to know, what's your argument against all this? Like, why do you see all this as bad? And what do you think Christie or Trump or DeSantis or Nikki or Noam or any of those people up on the Republican side of the stage, what are they going to say against this? What's the case they can say, this is communism, this is socialism, this is bad, this is them Democrats being wannabe dictators and authoritarians and taking away our rights and our freedom? What rights? What freedom? What are you talking about? Giving somebody a free lunch is taking away somebody's right? That's the argument they made when they had us wear masks. Oh, they're taking away our rights. The right to do what? They didn't take away your right to breathe. You're still alive, ain't you? So, look, again, I usually go off on a tangent. I digress a little bit when I get into these... what conservatives generally say about these type of things, what liberals generally say about this. All I can tell you is this is an amazing thing that these states are doing, and kudos to the states that tried to get it through, even though they didn't. But the Democrats who initiated that, at least they still came out looking like the good guys in that. I'm assuming in some of those states, maybe some Republicans probably voted for it. I'm willing to bet most of them voted against it, but I'd have to go state by state in detail to really see and look at the government website to see who all was for this and who all was against it and who all didn't vote on it because they were probably indifferent. But either way, Massachusetts did an amazing thing. Congratulations to Maura Healey and the Democrats out there. Thank you to Governor Newsom, Governor Whitmer, all the other Democratic states and areas that did this. So, again, I say to my fellow Democratic advocates and voters, let's push the Biden-Harris administration to do this because we have to get ready for 2024. So that's going to be a huge win right there. That's going to easily boost the approval and favorability ratings for Biden and Harris. So, again, if you have any arguments against it, I sure would like to hear it, but I doubt I'm going to get any arguments against it. Free school lunch program, it was the right thing to do.